Hi everyone, welcome to the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves and we've got another great show. What we're going to talk about today is using 3D animation in your home and business. And our guest is Randy Bradley from Original Images here in Houston. And what we're going to do something a little different in this show. Instead of going right into the show, we're going to start off with like a 2 or 3 minute demo of what Randy does. So stay tuned, watch the demo, stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name's Steve Reeves, and like I said, we've got another great show. Hopefully you like that video. It's pretty neat stuff, huh? The name of the show is Using 3D Animation in Your Home and Business. It's the longest title I've ever done there. And our guest is Randy Bradley from Original Images here in Houston. And what we did is we started the show off with a 2 or 3 minute animation to show, to hook you in there so you watch the show and see what we're going to talk about. I guess what we got to do before we go any farther is I want to make sure everybody knows we do have a hotline that you can call in and leave messages, suggestions in future shows, what you like about the show, whatever. And the phone number will come up at the breaks. And the phone number is 587-6949. And we also have an email address, and that'll come up also. So if you have any comments about what you'd like to see in future shows, anything, guests, if you like the show, whatever, just leave us a message on our email address or leave us a message on the hotline in case you don't have an email address. So I guess what we got to do first is, or go right into the show, I want to introduce Randy Bradley from Original Images. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your company does, what you do.
Okay, well, Original Images is primarily a photographic studio. We photograph weddings and portraits and children and families, and the computer animation end of the business came out of a need to be able to create graphics for the wedding videos that we did.
Oh, great.
We wanted to be able to put titles on there, and I started out with simple 2-color titles, like you would for titling any kind of video, and then I got into the idea of doing animation for the titles. And kind of got drawn into it. I'm a photographer by trade, and computer animation is primarily photography in a box.
Right.
You take a little scene, you set it up, you put the characters where they're supposed to be, you put a camera in there, and you light it, and then you animate it. So the animation I'm about to show, what we did is we were moving into a new studio. It was a brand new location, and we needed to decide where we were going to place the sample prints and which end of the room the backgrounds would go on and where the lights would be placed, just to get the feel for it. And in the past, in my home and in business, I've used the computer to pre-design a room or a setting and find out what I wanted it to look like, what colors we were going to use, and it's a really nice way to visualize without having to paint over and over or move pictures and everything. So let me go ahead and show the animation. This is an animation of our studio, and what it's going to show is coming in the front door into our entry room, and in our studio the first room is the camera room. Now in most studios the camera room is hidden in the back, so this was an unusual thing for us to need to test. This is an animation of the coming in the entry room, right in the front door, and it shows the staircase upstairs, and we have the sample prints on the walls, and we chose the colors based on what we had to do with the carpet and the blue with the wall. Now that's the fly-through of the room. That's without the camera equipment or the backgrounds in.
Right.
Then we went in, and what this actually does, it has the backgrounds hanging on the walls where they'll be, and some of the lighting equipment where it would be, just to see what the space would look like for a customer coming in for the first time. I didn't want it to appear too cluttered, so we wanted to make sure that the sample prints would dominate the room. And this kind of steps around the room and shows the different views, like so. And it gives you an idea of what it'll look like. Now, this is also useful not just in business, but also in the home. What I've done in the past, if I wanted to build a bookshelf, instead of drawing it out on paper and making measurements, I'd do it in the computer. And it's a very simple thing to build in the computer, to build a bookshelf. You sell flat planes and squares, and you can test out, find out how long the boards need to be and all of that, and then you can actually build the room it's going to go in and place the bookshelf in various positions and find out how it works.
So you had to build all those parts, like the lights that were there in your studio and everything else?
Everything is built using primitives. You don't actually, in an animation, have to build it as if you were going to build it in the real world. It doesn't have to actually work.
Right.
You know, the light boxes were actually simple cubes that were shaped down.
And then painted the color or whatever, filled in with the colors?
Yes, you actually assign a surface color and the attributes to an object. Not just its color, but how hard it is and its shininess and the various attributes to it.
I guess if you made it too complicated, it would probably make the file really big, and it would probably kind of bog you down, wouldn't it?
It can make the file large. The primary thing it tends to do is make the animation take longer to render.
Oh.
The more detail you place in there, the longer it takes for the computer to calculate what it's going to look like.
And that can take a long time for a huge rendering, doesn't it?
Well, the frames in this animation, the studio took approximately 3 minutes a frame. I've done animations, and some of the ones you saw in the demo at the opening took as long as 45 minutes to an hour per frame.
Wow.
The more complex you make it, the longer it takes.
And how does that work with all, like, you had the photographs on the wall, and you place those right on top of the...
Well, what we did is we actually scanned we took small photographs and scanned them in on a flatbed scanner, and then applied them to the same kind of surface that you would really do in a photographic situation. There's a foam core board that photographs are mounted on. So I made a little piece of black foam core and stuck them on there, and then we were able to resize them, do them different sizes, and place them around the room to determine. The primary thing I wanted to determine was what was big enough.
Right.
Most photographic lobbies are maybe 15 by 15 feet. Our entryway is 30 by 30 feet with a 30-foot ceiling. It took some very large photographs to appear dominant in the room. Most sample prints are maybe 16 by 20, 20 by 24.
Right.
Some of those are 30 by 40 inches. One of them is actually 40 by 60.
Wow.
And we didn't know that it needed to be that big until we did it. And this is useful in your home, too. If you're thinking about a piece of art for the room, and you don't have to put a lot of detail in it, make the box for your room, and a little later we're going to show you how to work with the 3D program and build a very simple room. But you make a box approximately the size of your room and stick some pictures on the wall and then put the camera in the positions that someone coming into the room would be in, and see if that photograph or painting is an appropriate size. And if it goes with the decor of the room, make the room the proper colors.
Right. And you can change all that on the fly? I mean, change, or do you have to re-render it?
You have to re-render. Now, there are some programs that can change it on the fly. Most of them are for higher-end systems, but I believe there's one or two that are available for the PC market.
But you could capture one of those screens, right, of looking in like in a corner with everything there and just render that one screen, right, to see what, I mean, that one drawing.
And then you could even go into a Photoshop-type paint program and paint the walls different colors.
Right.
It would not be as realistic as doing it in a 3D program.
And what about, can we show that again? I want to see
Sure.
that. Like the one thing, the one with all the lights and everything in it, just when you did the step through.
Okay, the step through. Okay.
I mean, things, yeah, like that. Now, how hard is it to make that hanging?
Yeah, the hanging canvas background, that was the only thing that was difficult and was not composed of a primitive. A primitive is a flat plane, a sphere, or a cylinder. The primitive shapes, a cone, sphere, cylinder, flat plane. Everything else in that room is composed of basically a flat plane or a cylinder. If you look at it,
Right.
all the walls are flat planes, the little background tubes are cylinders. The canvas background started out as a cylinder that I cut part of and stretched it up.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a quarter of a cylinder that I stretched up to the floor and out across the ground, just like the gray paper background. And then I went in, and a 3D object is composed of vertices or points, lines connecting those points, and faces connecting the lines, making up flat surfaces.
All right.
Okay, so that canvas background is now flat, but it's made up of a lot of little points and lines and faces. So I went in and I grabbed and pulled, just like you would a piece of canvas, only you're using the computer to pull up little parts and make the rumples and the folds in it.
Oh, okay.
So that took a little bit of time, but it's not particularly difficult to do. It's just knowing the tools in the program. And there are a variety of programs. This animation and the majority of animations that I do are done in a program called Imagine. And it's available for the IBM market for the PC. It's available, it originally came out on the Amiga computer, and I don't believe it's yet available for the Mac. I think they may be planning that, but it will be available. Now, on the PC, there are a variety of programs that are very similar and capable of doing almost identical things. 3D Studio is the one that's been around for the longest. It's similar to Imagine.
From Autodesk.
From Autodesk, and it's got a good learning curve. It's not too steep, but it has power. The other program that's available on almost all platforms now is a program called Lightwave.
All right.
And I use that for some of the animations that I do. It's very good for space scenes. It's in Babylon 5 and all of the space TV shows use it.
I think they actually have it here at HCC. I think they have.
Yeah, it's a nice program. It has a very easy learning curve, but for this type of work, for me, it is not as accurate. It is not as easy to model real-world events.
Right.
I do occasionally animations of auto reconstruction of accidents, and I don't use Lightwave for that because Imagine is much more accurate. When I was doing one in a lawyer's set down, we need this to be accurate to within a foot or so, and I said, well, I can make it accurate within 1/100 of an inch. So that shouldn't be a problem. Imagine is a very accurate program. It probably has the steepest learning curve of the major 3D programs, but for this kind of work, 3D Studio will work well, Lightwave will work fairly well, and it actually comes with, when you purchase it, furniture. Couches, chairs, potted plants,
that makes
televisions. Most of the programs come with a library of objects, but Imagine's is a very diverse library. So it gives you the chance to use different ones. Lightwave has also got a good library of objects.
And can you buy other objects or from third-party vendors? Or
yeah, well, not only can you buy them, but if you have internet access, there are a great deal of free objects to download over the internet. There are sites specifically for 3D animation. So you can go.
Now, can they use different? From other products, can you use that, or is it specifically for this program?
It depends on the program you're using. 3D Studio is able to use a variety of different object formats. Lightwave, I believe, comes with converters to convert from other formats. They don't always work properly. Sometimes the object comes in a little bit mangled. Most of the time it works fine, though.
And then can you go in there and fix it, or is it?
Well, if it's mangled, I wouldn't suggest trying to fix it. If it's merely got a missing part or something, or if the colors aren't right, it's easy to fix that.
Right.
I've had to do animations of a specific car. I needed to animate a Hyundai for a model accident reconstruction, and there were no models of Hyundais, and we took a BMW and modified it into
Oh.
a Hyundai, which I don't know anyone that would do that in the real world, but it was a fairly simple thing to move bumpers and change the
Right,
profile
put a different
slightly.
grill on the front, whatever.
And one of the other things that can be done that works fairly well, again, getting back to the idea of using it in your home or even for your business, anytime you're designing a room, you can actually go in and photograph or video. If you've got a capture board for your card, do a video of a wall, and as long as you're straight onto it, you video that wall, load it into the computer, and in a 3D program, stick that picture on the wall. And that's a very simple way to recreate a room and make it look fairly realistic.
I've heard that you can actually do the same thing with carpet. Is it true? Or I mean,
To photograph it and scan it in?
can you do that, or is that
You
more
can.
trouble than it's worth?
I've had it work very well with floor tile. You lay a piece of floor tile actually on the scanner and scan that in, and that looks very convincing. The problem with carpet is the pattern repeats, and you see
Right.
the repeat.
What about things like Formica? And is it easier to draw it like that, or is it
Well,
easier to...
there's two types of textures in the 3D mapping. What you have is you have the picture stick-on, like we're talking about there.
Right.
Okay. And then in some of the more advanced animations on my demo tape, you'll see what are called algorithmic textures. And actually, I've got a one on here.
Oh, that'd be great. I was
It's a
gonna ask-
very nice example of an algorithmic texture.
Aren't you glad I brought that up?
Yeah. This animation is part of a space sequence I'm doing, and the surfaces in this were done algorithmically, which instead of brush mapping it on, you define with a formula, and it's much easier than it sounds. Actually, you define the colors and the texture and how many bumps, and there are pre-done ones that'll be like for flagstone or for
okay.
techno-organic or for whatever. And all the textures in this were done with the Imagine Essence library of textures.
Right.
So let's go ahead and play that. And this is kind of a fly down a
great.
little hallway, and you can see the techno plating, and the little pipes were color fractals along the side. And these were not brush mapped on. The computer has to actually calculate all of the bumps and textures. Each of the frames of this took about 45 minutes to an hour to render.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
But it tends to give it a more realistic look. And I believe I have one other on here.
Oh, I see. It's something flying
It
out.
flies out, and then the same spaceship flies around the dock.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And those are the same kind of algorithmic textures on there. And
You did
again,
all this? Man, you're pretty good, you know.
well, it can take a lot of time or it can go easy. This one was very easy to do. That grid work is actually a cylinder that I've done what's called lattice sizing, and it stops.
Oh,
And
great.
the lattice-sized...
Show that one again.
okay, let's show the
While you're
document.
talking there.
The lattice-sized work, what it does is it takes all of the lines in an object and converts them into faces. So that's what the cylinder would have looked like in a wireframe.
Oh, I
That
see.
shows you what it's composed of, but we took off all the faces and turned the faces into other faces. Like
Oh, I see. And they did the same thing with the sphere?
Yeah, the sphere is the same thing. It's an easy way to do power line cabling, what do they call the lines, the stands for the power lines. And also for oil rigs. We did an oil rig that way. We built
Oh,
the
yeah.
outline of it and then lattice-sized it.
Oh, that's great.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other...
What other fun stuff?
Well, there's an animation that's on here that is another one done for business purposes. If you have any video output in your business, and that's not just any... Swimming pool companies put out videos of their swimming pools. Apartment locators will put out a little video showing what they do with apartment locating. This is common now. People are beginning to do this on their own instead of paying somebody a lot of money. So when you do that, you need to have a little logo or a little announcement in the animation. And this is how I got started, doing little logos for my own videos. So what this is a little animation showing one of the things our photographic studio does. It's original images comes in, and that's a photograph, and Heirloom Portraits, which is one of the things we feature. Those are portraits of children or adults in vintage clothing. And so let me run that again real quick here.
When I do a videotape, I'm lucky if I get the date on the corner, you know what I mean?
This is
And usually it's wrong.
well, with the particular software we use for this was incredibly easy to do. This required, I mean, somebody in 30 minutes who had never seen the program could learn how to do this kind of animation.
Yeah, because that's got it has like three-dimensional text.
Three-dimensional text and a box with a picture on it. The box already comes with Lightwave. The picture I scanned in
All right.
and stuck on the front of it, and with Lightwave, that's very easy to do. With some of the other programs, applying a picture is a difficult thing. Imagine it's particularly difficult because you have so much control over where it goes. In Lightwave, it pretty much sticks it wherever it wants to.
Oh, okay.
then the text, you simply select text, type in the text, and it shows up. To animate it, you put it where you want it. You go a few seconds ahead, put it where you want it to end up, and you say go, and it does it. A little bit later, we'll show you exactly how to do that. And with any 3D program, it's basically the same steps.
All right. They're telling me we need to take a quick break here.
Okay.
So make sure everybody stays tuned. We have Randy Bradley from Original Images here, and we're talking about using 3D animation in your home and business. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves, I'm the host, and we've got Randy Bradley from Original Images. Actually, it's in Stafford, it's not in Houston. And we're talking about using 3D animation in your home and business. And we're going to be showing all kinds of fun stuff. But before we go on to the show, I want to make sure, Randy, why don't you tell them where you're located and what your phone number is?
Sure. Original Images, the photographic studio and computer animation service, is located in Stafford at 10567 West Airport, which is like at Murphy Road, right by the Lubies. I always say that because people know where the Lubies is. And the phone number is 498-5689.
All right. Great. Okay. Just want to make sure that people know, where you are and everything else.
If you have any questions about computer animation, give me a call.
Yeah. All right. And so what are we going to talk about here? Why don't we go right into the show and talk about the fun stuff?
The program I'm about to run is called Lightwave, and it's available on the Amiga and on the PC, and it runs very well on a Pentium, even faster than it does on the Amiga. It's also available for SGI and DEC Alpha, and it runs under Windows and Windows NT. So we're going to go ahead and start it up. And when you first come into it, you're in the scene editor, which is where the camera is and the lights would be and where you'll actually set your scene up. So what we're going to do first is go over into the modeler, and that's where you'll create your objects. And the first object we're going to create is a primitive. It'll be a box. Now this is the top view from above. This is your top view, this is your front view, and this is your right view. So what we're going to do is make the size of the room, and right now we're going to go ahead and let's stretch that thing out to there, and we need to have it have some height. Like so. Now what I want to do...
So does that little icon change when you're drawing like something else, or does that square mean you're drawing a box?
It means I'm drawing a box. Yes. It's a nice... This particular program is very nice at that. It lets you know basically everything you're doing.
Intuitive.
Intuitive. We're going to go in and we're going to set the size of our room in a little number thing. This is particularly useful if you're building a bookshelf, which is one of the things I keep coming back to because that's an easy thing to build, and I did it in this program. We happen to be in feet right here, and we want our room to be about 20 by 20, just to start with a rough room. So we're going to go -10, so we're 10 feet to that side, and then we're going to go -10, wait, I'm sorry, that's the height. We don't want it to be 20 feet tall. We'll make it 10 foot tall. -5, -10, and then the other numbers will be positive values. 10, 5, 10, and we hit OK. And we're going to go A, like so, and that now shows our room. And that is our box. It is a 20 by 20 foot box that's 10 feet tall.
All right.
Okay. Now one of the things we need to do is tell the program what everything is.
All right. So each one of those grids must be 5 feet then, right?
It looks like it is. We're going to go polygon, and we're going to select the top and tell it that that's the ceiling.
All right.
Ceiling. And I'm just going to call it top because that's easier to remember.
Right. Less letters, too.
Less letters. Then we're going to select the bottom, and actually we're going to use floor for that because that's less letters than bottom. And then one of the things you can do in this program that's very nice, we're going to select all the surfaces, like so, and then we can go like so and deselect the ones we don't want, which is very nice. We don't want the floor, and we don't want the top. So now we just have the outside walls, and we're going to name that walls. Okay, so now we have our object all set. We're going to go and send it over to, let's put it in here and call it room. Let's spell room right. There we go. And we've exported it back over to this editor. Now our room is
Oh,
in there,
okay.
okay? And we go into surfaces, and here's where you define all of the colors, okay? So we're going to have our floor, and if you had a picture of carpet, which I actually happen to have a picture of carpet in here, let's load that in. Load image.
How did I happen to ask that question, you know?
I don't know. Let's see, FD, where's my carpet? I believe it's actually in GD, oops, parent, GD, imagine, this is actually the carpet from my studio.
Oh, okay. There it is. Carpet.
Carpet, carpet pick, there we go. Oh, it's not in the right format. It won't take it in this program.
Oh, because this is, you did it in
I
the
did
other
it in
one.
Imagine, it's in this one. So we won't bother with the carpet picture, but if we had a carpet picture, you could stick a carpet picture
Just
on
paint
it.
the floor, yeah.
We'll just paint the floor. Let's make the floor, and this is how you select your color, and we're going to make it a nice even gray. How about 125, 125, 125? Now you actually have sliders that you could use to move them around, and that
Oh,
changes
okay.
the color at the bottom down there. It's almost, to me, it's more accurate to actually enter the number in
Right.
instead of sliding it around all the time.
Especially if you know the numbers.
If you happen to know the numbers, gray is an even value, so if you were looking for a particular peach tone, it might be easier to slide it around.
Right.
And you can also set the diffused value, which is whether it's shiny or not, the luminosity, specularity, all these different values. But for our room, we're going to leave our floor just plain. We're going to make our walls. Let's go ahead and mess with the colors a little bit here, and we're looking for a kind of a rose peach color.
All right.
That's too brown. That's getting where we're headed. Something like,
That's good.
that's pretty good. There we go. So now our walls are that color. And we're
Matches
gonna
my
make
eyes.
our we're going to make the top, the ceiling, pure white, because ceilings are white.
Right.
255 is pure white. Okay, so now we have our room. We're going to go into a slightly different view, and we need to get our camera where we want it. Our camera's way out here, so we're going to select the camera and move it into the room. And we have to make sure and have it in the room in all the different different views.
Oh, I said it's a little camera there, a little like...
Little bitty camera, and it shows you where it's aiming. So we're going to rotate it, and we're going to be looking down into the room
I
like
see.
so. And that should look about right. So we'll tack that down where we want it and go back into this view. Now we'll look through the camera and make sure it's looking into the room. And
All
it is.
right.
There's the back corner over
So as if we were standing where that little camera is and we were looking towards the...
towards the back corner.
Right.
Right. Okay. So now what we're going to do, let's zoom back in and let's put some furniture in. Now Lightwave comes with a variety of objects, and you would simply go into Load Objects, and they actually have a section down here, Furniture.
Right.
So we'll go into Furniture, and we're going to pick a couch that we like, sofa. That should work nicely. And we'll go back over to the scene, and there's our sofa.
Oh, great.
Now, I'm trying to make sure that it's looking the way I want it to look. Good,
Oh.
it is. It's kind of up in the air a little high, but we're going to move it like so, Object, Sofa, and we'll move it over and put it against this back wall over here, and that's in the top view. We'll go to the side view and make sure that it's actually on the floor.
Okay. It was a helium sofa.
It is an inflatable sofa, I
Yeah.
think, like so, and we'll tack it down where it goes. So we'll go back. I think I moved it again, didn't I? I did. Put it back down on the floor.
Nail it
So,
down there.
Nail it down. Really good. Go back over to the overhead view, and now let's load in some other furniture. And I'm going to go ahead and load in a few of these things. Let's take in, well, we don't really need a dresser. Here's a fireplace.
Well, that'd be good.
And we're going to tell it that we don't want that texture. And maybe a coffee table. And a designer lamp.
Ooh.
Not just a lamp, a designer lamp.
Great.
So we'll go back over here, and those are all in the room now. Now down here is how you select which one you're going to work with. Let's go to the fireplace. Now it happens to be really big. It's the wrong size completely. There's our fireplace. This actually isn't a Lightwave object. I actually built this.
Oh,
That's
okay.
probably why it's the wrong size. We're going to stretch it, scale it down to the right size, and it should be the same height as the room, I believe, because it's designed to be butted up against a ceiling like so. And we'll go just like that. And very good.
Great.
Go back into our top view, and we're going to move that over against the wall here, like so. It looks like it's a little large, but we're going to leave it that size. Let's go back to the camera and see what we've got.
Oh, I see. It's a freestanding.
It's a freestanding
Okay.
fireplace.
Got it.
There's our fireplace. That really does look a bit large. Let's scale it down and use the camera view to determine what looks right. That looks about right.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Okay, so we'll go back to this view, right, wait, that's the one I wanted, and move it where we want it, right against the corner, like so, and tack it down where we want it. So now we go back to the camera view, and what else have we got to move into place? We have...
Designer lamp.
Well, let's go to the coffee table first. Let's leave the designer lamp. It's the peak of the show, so we're going to leave that a little further along. The coffee table happens to be the correct size, so we just need to move it where we want it. We're going to put it on the floor, which is a good place for coffee tables to go. And I think, let's rotate it and show how our rotation works. We want to make sure and rotate it the proper direction. There we go. Move over here, and we're going to rotate it, and you have different directions to rotate. Heading, pitch, and bank. And the heading is what we want to change, like so. And the nice thing about Lightwave as a program is this is all very easy to play with. In other programs, it might take you a while to get used to what you're moving.
Right.
And what you're looking at, even. Okay, that's looking good. Let's tack that down where it goes. Go back to the overhead, and now we have the designer lamp. We pick the designer lamp, and let's see, it's a tall freestanding lamp. I think it should go beside the couch, maybe.
All right.
Let's put it over here against the wall, and go to the top view and make sure it's approximately where we want it.
So, you're just flipping between different views, top, front, side?
This is the front view.
Right.
That's the top, and that's the right. It's a little easier than trying to move things around in the camera view because you can't quite tell what you're looking at. So we're going to go, we have that lined up right. I think this can actually scoot over a little closer because I believe it hangs over the couch.
Right.
Very
I think the couch is going to start on fire, though.
Well, I don't think it's that hot of a lamp, unless it's a sun lamp.
No, I mean the fireplace.
Oh, the fireplace. That's a possibility. Well, but because of our camera view, we could move the fireplace a little further away. Let's tack that down where it goes. I'm
just giving you a hard time, you know.
Well, I'm worried about it too. You know, it's not my couch, but the insurance thing is the problem.
Oh, that's a lot better there.
That's safer, I think.
Right.
Okay. Well, I just realized from a design perspective, you couldn't really get to this couch because you couldn't get past the fireplace.
Just climb over the.
You just climb over the fireplace. So let's go back to the camera view. There we go. And that gives you a basic idea of what we're looking at.
Right.
Now, what we're going to do very quickly is render this out to just a little grayscale view so you can see approximately what we're looking at.
All right.
So we're going to just hit F10, and it should render out. Let's make sure we got everything where we want it.
So what's it doing on the bottom? It's telling you what it's doing?
Yeah, it's telling me what percentage has been done.
Oh, I see. Oh, that looks good.
And there's our couch, and I'm not seeing our designer lamp. I suspect our designer lamp might be
clear?
Black.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah, see, what we didn't do really is get the lights where we wanted them. One of the things you always have to do in a 3D animation is position the light so that it will affect what you want it to affect.
Right.
And right now, our light is sitting right in the middle of the room, aimed over at the side.
Right.
So what we're going to do, and this is another thing you can do once you've designed a room, is play with the lighting.
So that's like a little light for like in the studio here, a little flipper door.
A little spotlight, and we're going to move it over to this side of the camera and rotate it like so.
Oh, okay.
And then we have to make sure we have it aimed high enough. It's not actually as high up in the room as I would like. About there. One of the particularly nice things about about Lightwave is you can look through the light.
Oh.
That is what the light is seeing. Okay? That allows me to position it exactly like I want so that it's hitting what I want it to hit. So we'll go back to the camera view now, and let's do that little render again and make sure that we've got everything in there that we want in there.
All right. So what did it say? Rendering segment?
Rendering segment 2 out of 4. That means there's a total of 4 segments.
All right.
And it's on the second segment. Now, for some reason, our...
maybe the light bulb's dead.
Well, I think I may know what the... That's a possibility. I think I may know why our room isn't showing up quite like we want. Objects can be single-sided or double-sided, and it needs to be a double-sided object. Let's see, under surfaces, double-sided.
Oh, okay.
That needs to be our room is what it needs to be. Walls double-sided. Let's see, that's the problem. Top double-sided. Floor double-sided. Okay, now let's see if we get some walls to show up.
And that's why the walls weren't showing up. They were. It was actually the outside. Is that?
Yeah,
what was,
if we'd have rendered the outside of the room, we'd have seen it.
right.
But we were rendering the inside, and the walls were not double-sided, so they
It was
weren't
only
showing up.
rendering one side of it,
Right.
the outside.
Most 3D programs assume that you want an object to be double-sided. Lightwave, for some reason, assumes that you don't want it to be double-sided.
Oh, now you can see the lamp.
Yeah, now you can see the lamp better against the wall.
Great.
And that's the floor showing up.
And then it finishes the fireplace and coffee table, the lamp. Great.
Very good. So that gives you an idea of what you can do, and these were all objects that are just part of Lightwave and a primitive. Now you could go in and change the wall color, and we could render this out in color. We'd have to switch the output on the monitor to be able to see it.
This is fine.
But most of the programs allow you to build simple animations in the program. What we're going to do real quick is animate the camera flying through this room just very quickly. We're going to put the camera, let's see, first of all, we're going to Objects. We're going to add a little thing for the camera to look at that's called a track. So let's find the objects, null object, and we're going to move it over here so that the camera will always look over by the fireplace.
All right.
Okay? And then we're going to go back over to the top view, and we'll pick our camera. And let's start out over here and tell the camera to target the track like so, and we'll go like that, and then we'll move our camera to here, and we'll tell it to go 30 frames and look at that, and then we're going to tell it to go over to here and tell it to take 40 frames, and a frame is 30 frames equals a second. So now it's going to follow that little path.
Oh, great.
Okay? Let's go previous, there we go, and go to this view and actually lower that camera some so that the camera has a little bit of a dip to its motion.
Right.
Okay, so now we can look through the camera movement, and we can get a simple view of boxes of how it's going to look just moving that. Okay? Scene. Need to change the number of frames. It should be 70. There we go. Continue. Okay, so here's our little simple view with boxes of how that looks. Okay?
Right.
So we'll go over to here. Wait, hold on. That's more or less what we want it to look like.
Yeah.
And we'll go preview, make preview, and tell it to just make us a little wireframe. And we're going to see how long that's going to take. It may take longer than I think.
I see. Each one of those is a frame, right?
Right. See, now it's kind of moving across like that. That's moving fairly fast. We won't let it do the whole thing. But you get the idea that it's going to do a little animation showing all the way across.
And then when it's finished, it'll actually that'll be finished.
It'll play it back. Right. And the program itself is capable of doing the little wireframe animations. To do a complete full-color animation like you've seen in the demos that I've shown requires additional software or hardware. You'd need something that could compile a flick animation or an AVI. There's an awful lot of programs, multimedia programs on a PC that are available to do that without any additional hardware.
Right. Like Animator. I mean, there's programs out there like.
Yeah, well,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there are programs without any additional hardware that can compile an AVI.
Compile.
Yeah, can make. Well, you would render all the frames, and then the program would go through and make it into an animation.
I see.
Okay. There are additional hardware devices that, such as the one I use, the personal animation recorder, that are available also for the PC. It's a lot of money, but it's able to do full 16-bit, 24-bit color, 16 million colors in 30 frames a second, broadcast quality output.
Wow.
But most people don't need that around the house.
Right.
You know.
Normal people like me.
Let's see.
I mean, as opposed.
As to abnormal people
No, I
like
wasn't.
me.
No, I was, no, I'm going to say that's how much. I mean, how much is it really expensive? Or
I think it's around $2,000 to $2,500 for a full personal animation recorder and hard drive to be able to put out broadcast quality.
Right.
You can get MPEG playback boards for around $150 to $200, $300 that'll do almost that good a quality or available for the PC.
Yeah,
so
I'm actually about as far from normal as you can possibly be if you really want to know.
Here's the little playback of our room movement.
All right. Oh, bad news. We need to take a quick break.
Okay.
All right, and we'll come back and we'll
show another program.
Okay. I want to make sure everybody stays tuned, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, like I always say, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves and I'm the host. And we've got a great show here. We're talking about using 3D animation in your home and business. And we've got Randy Bradley from Original Images, actually in Stafford, as opposed to Houston. And we're showing all kinds of fun things. We're showing, what was the other program? Light Waves?
Light Wave.
Light Wave. Only one of them,
Only
right?
one wave.
And now we're going to take a look at what?
Imagine.
Imagine.
Imagine. It originally came out on the Amiga, and it is available for the PC. I don't believe runs under Windows. It has to run under DOS,
Okay.
and I believe it requires some memory management movements to get it to run properly.
So it's a heavy-duty program.
Yes, but once you've got it running, it's, in my opinion, one of the most powerful of the 3D animation programs. It also has the steepest learning curve.
All right.
So we're going to go on in there. And one of the nice things about it, it's very modular. You have a list of the different editors. Detail editor, forms editor, cycle editor, stage editor, action editor, spline editor. Sounds like Hollywood, all these editors.
Right.
So the one you start out in is the detail editor. And we're going to go ahead and first, real quickly, this is the list of primitives that are available. The sphere, tube, cone, torus, disc, plane.
All right.
Almost everything you build will be built from these items. You combine them to make whatever you're going to use. So we'll cancel that. The animation we showed at the beginning, one of them was of the new studio that we've opened. So I'm going to go ahead and show what that looks like in the process of building it. And I can't read this monitor right now. Let me get up here a little closer. Studio, there we go. Objects, I'm going to take the contrast.
Yeah, you can actually read it pretty good on the monitor.
Okay, there we go.
People that are watching can
They
see
can read it better than I can. Well, I'll just watch the show later so I can
Yeah,
see what
so
I
you
was
can
doing. We have an object right here called Room Object, and this is the room.
Oh, great.
And in Lightwave, you had to switch views. In Imagine, you look at the three views simultaneously. I'm kind of moving them around to get them centered the way I want. And they're labeled front, top, and right. And this is a perspective view. And this one you can actually alter the angle and look around in different parts, and you can zoom in a little closer and see what you're looking at. There's the staircase going. We're not inside the building yet. There we go. Now we're in the building. I think, hold on, let me get back in there.
Now let me ask just a completely off-the-wall dumb question here. How much is the software?
You know, it's a really broad range, and these particular programs I'm demoing are less expensive than programs that came out native to the PC. Imagine on the Amiga is around $350 to $500. The PC version is around $450 to $600, somewhere in that price
Oh,
range.
so they're not really, I mean, that compared to like 3D Studio,
3D Studio is around $3,000.
Right.
I think they dropped it to around $2,000, but still, that's an awful lot of money.
Right.
Lightwave, I'm not really sure. I think it was $695. Okay, and that's for almost any of the platforms.
So the normal people, abnormal people, anybody.
Anybody, well, and there are actually programs that do the same thing that are less.
Oh.
Okay, and there are public domain programs that do simplified versions of the same thing, that work with just simple primitives, and they don't allow sticking pictures on objects, and they don't allow the range of movement of the camera. They're not quite as slickly done in the interface. But for the price, Imagine is very powerful. It is at least as powerful as 3D Studio, and it's a third the price.
Maybe I should say nerds and non-nerds.
As opposed to normal and abnormal?
Yeah,
Well,
because I'm a nerd. I know I'm a nerd.
I
And this is a
was.
pretty cool program.
This is a very cool program. Well, I think the nerds have a better chance of operating this program.
Oh, okay.
Cool people wouldn't want to sit in front of the computer the number of hours that it takes to learn to operate this. But what I was going to show you is how these are actually composed of simple things.
Right.
Let's go in and select a singular object. This is the light panels on the ceiling. And those are actually just a bunch of planes. I'll go into here and we'll go primitive, plane, and we'll go like so, and F1, move. And this is our primitive plane. Rotate X, and like so. And we can scale it. It's that little orange box in the middle is what I'm working with. And we can shift X, and we can make a small little plane.
Platform.
Well, that right now is just a box that's sticking up in the air. But if we wanted it to be, say, a podium in the middle of the room,
right,
we're going to bring it down so that it's the right height. And then we're going to extrude it, which means we're going to just stretch it out. And we'll just do it the default length. And now it is this little purple box that is a podium in the middle. Move to right there. And now if you look in the middle of our room in here, there's this box. Let's go into a shaded mode that will show up a little bit better. These are the display modes: wireframe, solid, shaded, and the new mode.
All right. New mode.
And there's the box right there in the middle of the room. And
oh, I see.
You see it right there?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the top of the box right there. Let's see if we can pull back a little further from the box. And let's see, we're getting a little out of control with our perspective.
I see. It's got kind of a diagonal line going across it.
There we go. There's our box right there in the middle of the room.
Right.
So we'll go ahead and delete.
It's a delivery.
It's a big, large UPS delivery.
Right.
And there's a little. This is our little French window back there, and it's composed of a bunch of boxes that were stretched to be little lines. So as you can see, everything in this room, other than the staircase, is composed of little boxes.
Right.
Okay. So just for the fun of it, we're going to go ahead and delete the room, and we're going to do something a little bit challenging. Give me something to make.
To make?
Yeah, your pen. Let's do your pen.
All right.
You got a pen there. Okay, we're going to make a pen. Okay, so we're going to start with a primitive. A pen is composed of a couple of tubes.
I would have bought a fancier one if I knew
That's
you
a
were gonna
pretty
do that.
fancy pen, actually. It'll look nice. It's composed of a bunch of tubes. So we're going to set the size and height. And I would say a pen is about a 10-to-1 ratio. So we're going to have 10 radius, 100 height, close the top and bottom. And we're going to make it have 3 vertical sections. That should be sufficient. Okay, so there's the beginnings of our pen. We'll select it and scale it up a little taller. That looks about like your pen. Okay?
Yeah.
We'll go like so. Now it needs to have a larger area on top, an area that's bigger on the top. So we're going to go into a points mode, like so. And we're going to select these points, move Shift-Z, move them up to those points, grab those points and these points, and make them a little bit larger. Scale, and we're going to turn off the height, and so it just gets a little bigger that way.
Oh, great.
Move Shift-Z. Now the pen goes up and gets bigger. The only problem is the bottom of the pen tapers down. Scale off of the Z. Now the pen, it's a little much. Now our pen tapers down. Okay? So we're going to back up in this mode. Okay, zoom and back up to be able to see the outline of the pen.
Great.
Okay, now we need the little pocket holder thingy on
Right.
there. There's probably an official name for that. I'm not sure what it is. And that is composed of a plane.
I usually have a pocket protector on that I would be able to.
You don't. Let's see, primitive. Okay, we're going to go back into and we need a plane now. So we're going to go plane, and looking at that, it's probably about 5 by about 50, and we're going to leave it at 1 horizontal section and 6 vertical sections. Now we have our little plane there, F1.
Now do you go around in the world looking at things like, how would I draw that?
Very much so. You begin to see things as a series of lines and points and faces. One of the things we need to do is rotate that so that it faces the right direction.
Well, that's probably one of the hardest things about these programs is thinking in 3D, right? In X, Y, and Z's.
And the amazing thing is that none of the programs use the same X, Y, and Z.
Oh.
They change it around on you so that you have to learn it for every program. We're going to put it right in front of the pen like this. Scale Shift-Z. And it actually is long enough that it goes like that. Okay? And we're going to... It has to have a little hook on the end. As you can see, it hooks a little bit. So we're going to go into points mode. We're going to grab all of these. Let's see, do them one at a time. Move Shift-Z. Move Shift-Z. Move Shift-Z. And so we're down there now. And we're going to zoom in on that little section. And that's the other nice thing. You can just move around and zoom right in. And there's the little clip. And we're going to go back into that mode. We'll grab those points and move them where we want them to be, which is right about there, and take that section and move it where we want it to be, which is right about there. And now our pen kind of turns under at the end.
Right.
Okay, so we'll go back into 1 and pull back.
You know, you realize I do this for a living, you know?
Yeah, it'd be amazing how much harder it is to build things that are harder than pins. This is a pin, you know.
But it's pretty neat. It's
5
amazing.
by 5 and by 1 by 1. Okay, F1 move. We're going to take that up, and this is the little part at the top of the pin. I need to get in there a little closer so I can see what I'm doing. And we're going to go move. I know I'm going really fast on this.
Oh, that's all right. It's pretty cool.
You get the basic idea of how we do things.
Right.
Scale Shift Z. It needs to be about that big. Scale Shift X. I'm saying if what I'm doing, I do this even when I'm alone.
Talk to yourself?
I say, if I don't say what I'm doing, I might do the wrong one. Okay, so now we're going to extrude it back a little bit. Extrude, Perform, Scale Shift Y. See, that's why I call out the names like so. So now that is the little top of the pin up there, and I believe it is also black. So we'll go into here, and this is my favorite part of Imagine. This is this attributes editor.
Right.
So this is where you pick your colors and all your other stuff. So we're going to go in here, and also we're going to name this. We're going to call this Clip Top.
All right.
Okay, and we want it to be your basic black. Again, you can enter numbers, you can use sliders. 55, 55, 55 is a dark gray. We're going to turn off the Phong shading. Phong shading decides whether it's going to be rounded and smooth or have hard edges. We want it to have hard edges in this case. And
I ate there the other day.
hard edges?
No, Phong shading.
Phong shading, it's
Yeah.
an Oriental restaurant.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. Okay, and we're going to do this. This is the Chrome clip. And in this case, we can actually check in here and see if there is a Chrome attribute. Are there attributes in this one? There attributes, attribs. There we go. Well, we happen to have frog and oak wood and panel. I don't think we want a frog clip, so we won't use that. We'll make Chrome on our own. It's really amazing. Chrome is not what you would think. We're going to make it gray. Chrome is actually gray, and it has a high degree of specularity, which is the little highlights,
Oh, I
like
see.
so. And if we were going to have a complete scene, we'd have it reflect the scene, but we're not going to do that right now.
All right.
Okay, and then the last thing we need to give color to is the pin. Now, this pin is actually black, but that's kind of boring. We're not
yeah.
going to do a black pin. We're going to go in, and it needs to be Phong shaded because it is round. We want it to be smooth. We're going to go in, we're going to add a texture, and this is one of the coolest things in here. This is a list of all the textures that are available for Imagine.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very long list. My favorite ones are these ones all the way down here that were created by a man named Stephen Worley, who has a company that creates textures for 3D programs. And this is the Essence library. And we're going to use a noise. We're going to use a fractal color noise. And I use that a lot in a lot of my animations because it's a nice way to get really interesting random colors without having to do a lot of work.
That's what I like.
Yeah, it's really neat stuff without having to work real hard. We're going to say...
my motto.
Neat stuff without having to work real hard. And the colors right now are a mix of purple and blue, which happen to be okay with me. We could change the colors. This is the algorithmic textures I was talking about at the beginning of the show. They're extremely powerful. You have the ability to control virtually every aspect of the surface of the object, the bumpiness, the shininess, the everything. You could make very nice Formica, as you were asking about at the beginning, using an algorithmic texture. A lot of times I'll pile 6 or 7 algorithmic textures on the same object because they have transparency, they can show through. So we now have a colored pin, and we're going to real quickly pull back and show our colored pin and render it, and then we'll be done. Let's give a little bit more angle to it so we can see what it looks like, just like so, right about there, and we'll go quick render and 15, and do it. And this shouldn't take much time at all.
That's all right. We're about a minute and a half left of the show.
Okay, well, we're at 37, 39, 40, 45%. We're cooking right along. This is this should actually show up in color on this monitor, so it should
great.
be nice with this. Generating palette, and let's take a look and see what it looks like. There's our freaky looking color pin. We just got the top of it. Let's see if we have enough time to get it in there a little bit more.
So it was kind of like marble looking.
Yeah, it was a little bit marbly looking. I want to zoom. I want to pull back a little bit more and get the angle so that the light doesn't fade.
Oh, I see.
What happened is the light faded away on it. Let's try it again. Quick render, and we're going to say 0, 0, and go. And this is going to cook right along. And we should be able to see our pin a little bit better.
I wish my pen looked like that.
Wouldn't that be a
Mine's
nice
pretty
looking
boring now, you know. Mine just...
Well, I always wish that in these 3D programs, if you could build it, you could have it.
Right.
You know, I build a Porsche, I get to keep it. You know, it would seem like it should work that way.
Don't they have like an interface to like a lathe or something? Oh, that's pretty cool. Look at that.
And there's our 3D pin.
Wow, that's great. Like I said, I wish mine looked like that.
Well, basically anything that you can come across in the real world is composed of primitives short of organic things. People, plants, organic things. Anything man-made primarily is composed of primitives somewhere along the way.
Okay, that was a great show. I want to thank my guest, Randy Bradley from Original Images here. Well, actually, it's not in Houston. It's in Stafford, Texas. What is your phone number again, real fast?
It's 498-5689.
Okay. And I want to make sure everybody stays tuned because we're going to show actually some more 3D animations at the end of the show. And you'll see some more things that Randy's actually done. So make sure you watch next week's show, and we'll see you later.